Good afternoon, everyone. This is Valerie from Tusome Books. I am here today with Mila Bonco and Anthonio Flores. Mila Bonco is the author of Tony's Wheels. I have a copy of her book here. And she's the author of a number of other bilingual children's books, which we will include at the end of the video. She is an avid marathoner, and she's an advocate for inclusion and diversity. Anthonio Flores is an advocate for persons with disabilities in Alberta, and he is the inspiration for this children's book, Tony's Wheels. I'm happy to have you both here. Welcome.
Hi, Valerie. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll go right into talking about the book. And Mila, I'll begin with you. So in your introduction, I talked about how you run marathons and your work as an advocate for inclusion and diversity. And as I was reading through the children's book, through Tony's Wheels, I noticed some of those things included in the book. Those themes were included. So I'm just curious to know how you came about to write this book.
Okay. I like reading children's books. I noticed that there's not a lot of books out there that show or record the stories of immigrants and migrants. Mm-hmm. And so that was important to me to write children's books that reflect the journeys and the interests of children coming from immigrant families. So I'm always looking for topics that would show our stories, And then, of course, I have this friend who he has inspired me a lot, and that's, I guess, where my background in running long distance come from. I really admire those people who are disciplined and who are passionate about what they do. And my friend Tony, the inspiration of the book, I run, but I'm a fair weather runner. But Tony, like even in winter, he would go out there and train. Even when it's raining, and then the discipline of having a full-time job, and then still training for to compete at national, and international level. So that's, for me, just something that I cannot imagine myself doing, but I admire very much. So I thought, what a better topic, than write about a successful immigration story, and then the determination of a child who then becomes an athlete on a national level.
That's very, very cool. I've only managed to run marathons twice in my life, and usually leading up to it, because I'm not really a runner, so usually leading up to it, I get very anxious. But every time I'm done, I feel great, So mm-hmm. I also admire people who run, and have that discipline. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about what Tony's Wheels is about.
Okay, so Tony's Wheels is about a boy from the Philippines, and he has polio, so he has a disability. But at the beginning, I show him like doing things that other children are doing, like climbing trees, swimming, and enjoying life with his friends. Mm-hmm. And he then moves to Canada, where he discovers wheelchair racing. Not only discovers wheelchair racing, but he actually begins to excel in it, that he becomes an athlete for wheelchair racing at the national level for the Canadian team. And so that's what the story is all about. It just reflects, a child having to move to another place, not making that own decision, and then trying to figure out what can I do in this new place, and then and actually succeeding. Mm-hmm. And then while succeeding in this new place, he also thinks back about his old country, his home country, where his grandmother is still there, his old friends are still there, and he returns as well as gives back. So without spoiling the book, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, thank you. So I think this is a really good place to have Tony jump in and maybe share a little bit of your story.
share my story.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, yeah. First of all, Mila, thanks for those kind words. Well, she's my friend, of course. So after all, so anyway, my story. Like Mila said, I'm an immigrant in this country. As a person with disability, I had polio when I was 1 year old back in the Philippines, which affected my right leg. And I use crutches. Unfortunate that my physical disability caused by polio is not as daunting as it could be, But as I age now, I depend more on my wheelchair because of post-polio syndrome. But landing in this country, I couldn't say anything negative at all, except gratitude to this country that it has really blessed me with great opportunities. As a person with disabilities, immigrant in this country, I was able to pursue the things I wanted. I was able to pursue education, pursue a career, pursue a sport that I truly enjoy and excel in it. And now, really sports has really empowered me, sort of helped develop my self-esteem and really open up a lot of opportunities for me where I am now, even in my career now as a disability advocate. So, but I also, like what Mila says, is that as a person with disability, I can't, there's still, even in this country, there's still plenty of work to be done when it comes to disability rights and human rights, and I'm really blessed to be in this position. It's such a privileged position to be really bringing awareness of disability issues and bringing education about those challenges that we have, so we can bring informed change. And at the same time, it's not just my obligation to serve this country. I also feel that I have responsibility to give back in my home country. So that's with my other friends in the wheelchair sports, we do some kind of volunteer work in Asia, not just in the Philippines. Because I really believe that sports really empowers people, and particularly with people with disabilities. I think, if sometimes I reflect on, I'm just very fortunate to be in this country. There's a lot of talented people in the Philippines who have disabilities that does not have equal opportunity that I have. That's where I'm coming from. So.
That's amazing. Sorry about that. You mentioned that you do volunteer work across Asia. Can you talk a little more about that?
Yeah, not as much now, but before, when I was a competitive athlete, my energy now is really focused on my role as a disability advocate in Alberta. But my role now in terms of volunteer is on an advisory role. But previously, we collected used wheelchair equipment, sports wheelchair equipment, and we sent them to Asia. We sent them to the Philippines. And when we go to the Philippines, and we have sports clinic there, and we sponsored Filipino athletes to compete in international competitions. So that initiative really expands with my other friend in Calgary. And also expands in other parts of Asia, in Laos, in Vietnam, a lot of wheelchair athletes in North America or in Europe, a lot of their wheelchair sports equipment are just hanging in their garage for years, like their trophies, But what we do is we try to encourage them to donate those sports equipment because we know that plenty of people in developing countries could benefit from it. So.
I think that's really amazing. Maybe if this is something that you still do from time to time, perhaps we can share that information on our platform as well. If you'd like that.
Yes, of course, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I think, Mila, you had mentioned earlier something about how in the Philippines you discovered that Tony went to the. Do you know what I'm talking about? I think I want you to.
The hospital?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, okay. So, yeah. I had mentioned earlier that I had donated some of these books to the rehabilitation medicine department of the Philippine General Hospital. That's the hospital where people from where I went to university mostly do their studying. And a lot of them also stayed on as doctors or consultants. So anyway, I sent them just some books, and then it turns out that Tony used to be there, a patient there, and now they reached to us, and then they said they want to give him a lifetime achievement award, and they want him to be the keynote speaker for the Philippines National Disability Week, and Tony has accepted.
That's really awesome.
I haven't. I verbally accepted it to you, but I'm too busy that I haven't really responded to the request yet by email. But my plan is to respond to accept their invitation. But thank you for that, Mila. Yeah, it was very interesting because my eldest sister was a physiotherapist in that hospital,
Okay.
and when I was doing my therapy, I also got operated on my leg in that hospital. And during my rehab, I was doing my rehab there on my sister's unit when I was a very young boy. I was in grade 3, if I recall. So it's a small world. Anyway.
Yeah, but that's really amazing, right? Like sometimes you feel like you may be just doing a little positive work in one place, but the impact goes really far, and now you're able to be a keynote speaker, which will hopefully inspire other young people who might have some other disabilities or whatever other challenges, and if they see you doing well, then they feel inspired to do their best as well. So I think that's really amazing.
Yeah, I love it because it reflects the circle of life that I wanted to show in the book. Like Tony starting from here, going somewhere else, and then going back. More confident, like with ability to give and to excel, and it actually happens in real life. So I thought,
now you need a forward.
It's very interesting. My first time I went back to the Philippines 7 years after we immigrated in this country. I went back to the Philippines, visited my family there, and one time my crutches had some problem with my crutches. It needed some repair, and I did not have any. I didn't bring any parts with me or anything like that. So I asked around, and somebody told me, you go next town. We did not live in Manila. We lived in the countryside. And he said, you go next town, and there's a Christian school there that have special school for people with disabilities, and they also make wheelchairs and adapted equipment. Like perhaps they can help you repair your crutches. And then so I went, and as they were fixing my chair, my crutches, we were just chit chatting, and they were asking where I came from. I shared a bit of my story. I came from Canada, and I do skiing. Downhill skiing. I've done skydiving, tandem skydiving. And he says,
wow.
And they said, really? He says, there's a class right now a bunch of pupils with disabilities. Would you like to share your story? And then so just impromptu, I said, yeah, sure, why not? So anyway, I told them my story. I jumped 10,000 feet with the tandem. This was many years ago. I do downhill skiing and all this, and I also go to university at that time, and I could just see the kids' eyes, brighten about this. And then as I um, said goodbye, and God, I don't mean to be emotional about this. So as I said goodbye, I walked on the side of the room, and then a mother, and a child, a blind child, and mom said, "Why don't you recite him a poem?" I remember this child. He's probably about 7, 8. You know, you know, and he recited extemporaneously a beautiful poem of gratitude and thank you for telling the story. And it was really humbling because I thought that this kid has more talent than I have. I was just lucky. And I hope that child would have been blessed with great opportunities as well, because at that age, to be able to recite extemporaneously a beautiful poem naturally from his heart, it was in our native dialect, but it was beautiful expression of gratitude that that he had met me, that he's sort of open up beyond his sort of imagination of great opportunities ahead of him, allowed him to imagine a bigger imagination of what the possibilities are. So anyway, I thought I'd share that. It was a beautiful experience. So, I hope, I always think about that boy. That was probably about, I don't know, 30 years ago. I've been here in this country 37 years. So, yeah, he must be 37 now. So I hope he's some kind of, I hope he's like a professor in literature,
Yeah.
Maybe I hope he's a professor in Cambridge or Harvard, in arts, But anyway.
Thank you for sharing that story with us. I think that's like a very good demonstration of how, just giving children the opportunity to see what they could be or what is possible, how powerful that is. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. So the next question is for you, Mila. What are your hopes for Tony's Wheels?
Well, I just hope that it inspires children, right, to know that, hey, I may be undergoing some change, that's not under my control right now, because my parents are moving, or that we're going to another land, or I have a disability, or what is this new thing that I'm confronted with, and and then they find a way to figure it out. They find a way to find something that they can put their efforts and passion on, and that they find a way to ask help. So I think that was important in the book too, that to show that you can be hardworking, you can be determined, but you need the help. You need help from from your community, or somebody who shows interest as well in you to give you this opportunity, open door. So for Tony's Wheels, I hope that even if it's bilingual, it's obviously a child from the Philippines, I hope that it's the theme is general enough, that it covers Asian representation in children's book, that this child is also Asian like me, who moved to another country and found some success and never forgot where he came from. So again, I think coming from somewhere else, going to another place, but our identity, there's always a part of our past that remains in us. And so that's my hope, that all these things that I was thinking about when I was writing it, that it shines through the book, that the parents can talk to their kids about, like, oh, this is where I came from, and where I came from we had like the scenery, the food that they were eating, traditions, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Awesome, thank you. I think, that's a good point that you made, that the book is written in both English and is it Tagalog?
Tagalog, yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was really cool. I mean, I don't speak any of that, but it was really interesting to just like see the top and the bottom part. And I think also for children specifically from the Philippines who have been raised here, it's a good way of kind of practicing the language too. But no, I find that the themes and the story itself is universal enough that any child can relate to, particularly immigrant children. It's easy to be able to understand the themes of change, and being able to move along with the change while remaining connected to where you're coming from. I think it's definitely a universal book. And then, I just have one last question, and this one's for you, Tony. So you are an advocate for persons with disabilities in Alberta, and my question for you is, what are your hopes, for Alberta, in terms of your work, and maybe even across Canada? What are your goals? What do you hope to see?
Well, my hope, what I'm learning so far in this role as the disability advocate is that, people with disabilities deserve equal rights as everyone else. Even in this modern country, in sophisticated country as we are, people with disabilities still lack opportunities as other people without disabilities. Still deserves respect, still deserves dignity. Now, particularly with the pandemic, in the midst of the pandemic, is that people are, in my observation, I think we need to spend more time to listen. We need to have more time to be empathetic to other people's circumstances. It's, we need to be more compassionate. So my hope is that, like for instance, people with disabilities feeling isolated, all along anyway, and further worsened by this pandemic because of this social isolation. Is that, however, there's an opportunity there, is that people without disability also feels what it feels like to be isolated now that we need to be socially distant, right? So I'm hoping that people will be a little bit more empathetic and then compassionate for those people to those people with disabilities. So that's my hope. For sure, we need to work harder to ensure that people with disabilities have equal opportunities as everyone else. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. I think we're going to leave it at that. So thank you both so much for being here with me today. For our viewers, the book is Tony's Will. It is available at Tusome Books, so that's tusomebooks.com. You'll see the link at the bottom of this video. So you can purchase it from our website, and you can also leave comments if you'd like, or get in touch with me or anybody else at the bookstore. So thank you all once again, and have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Valerie.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.